story, but the real lead story of the race was the Iceman, Scott Dixon, clearly having the race in control. So we're going to have a little fun with this. This goof that Dixon did has not been unprecedented. And Bob and I have kind of thought of 5 that may top this, and we'll let the audience, if they want to respond to this, get their opinion of the biggest goof up ever. The first one was we could think of was in 1947, and rookie Bill Holland was leading comfortably in the Blue Crown Special. His car owner, Lou Moore, who was a very good race car driver himself, didn't want his 2 cars battling out, perhaps crashing. So he holds up, writes easy, and displays it to both Bill Holland and Maury Rose. Now, Rose was the co-winner in 1941 before the war after taking over Floyd Davis's car. So Rose didn't pay any attention to the slow down sign, the easy sign. He passes Holland. Holland waves at him as if, he thought he was a lap ahead. And then Rose goes on to win his second 500. Holland was just livid on that. And then they calmed him down saying, you're not going to get a better ride than a Blue Crown ride. But that's goof number 1. Goof number 2, I particularly, because I wrote about it in Eddie Sachs, the Clown Prince of Racing. With 3 laps to go, Sachs ducks into the pits to change a tire, allowing A.J. Foyt to go on to win his first win. Now, for you Foyt lovers, I will admit, Foyt had to come into the pits because he didn't get fuel, but Clint Bronner, the chief mechanic, was just absolutely livid, and later had, I believe it was Foyt or one of the drivers, just go run 3, maybe Parnelli, go run 3 laps to prove that tire could have last. That's goof number 2. Number 3, we were talking about in 1969 when Lloyd Ruby had the race in command, somewhat mid-race, I think it was, and he comes in for a traditional pit stop. What happened on that, Bob?
Well, really what happened, he's let his foot slip off the clutch slightly and engaged the clutch, and it pulled away just before they had the fuel hose completely disconnected, which pulled out the side of the fuel tank. And of course, the pits were flooded with fuel at that point, and he was out of the race.
And at that time, they fueled sometimes from the side of the car, rather the way we see it now. Those were when we had a lot more latitude in how the cars would be designed.
Yep.
And so that kind of locks in when they do it with that kind of refueling. Mm-hmm. And so you have to unlock it and pull it away. We don't do that, of course, in the current. We push it in and it's not locked by anything. So bad luck.
Yeah.
Goof number 4 in 1995. And when they were ready to go green, Scott Goodyear jumps the pace car and goes around that. They immediately start throwing the black flag, and Goodyear somewhat stubbornly refuses to come into the pits with that. He actually wins the race because Jacques Villeneuve could not catch him, and they discounted those remaining 12 laps or so. But my opinion, the biggest goof up, number 5, and I'll get you, so Scott, don't feel so bad, was in 2011 on the final lap, on the final turn. This rookie by the name of J.R. Hildebrand comes around and hits the wall and goes bouncing down, banging the outer wall down the track. And Dan Weldon, who had not led a lap the entire race, passes him on the main straightaway to win his second Indy 500. So you have Bill Holland in 47, you had Sachs in 61, you had Ruby in 69, you had Goodyear in 95, and then JR in 2011. Scott, all of those, in my opinion, were bigger goofs than what just a mile an hour down the pit lane. But
Well,
let's analyze. What do you think?
let's chat about at least the last two.
Yeah. Were you recovering those, Paul?
I'm sorry?
Were you covering either one of those, either television?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Holland, no. Let me think. No, I only the last two. With regard to Scott Goodyear, he actually lost two Indy 500s by less than 2 seconds. I mean, you talk about terrible luck. And I'm with him all the time. In fact, we're going to lunch next week. He tells me that after they wanted that black flag out, and he and Steve Horn, the car owner, decided that they were not going to come in. They were going to prove that that engine in that day with that driver could drive 500 miles faster than anybody else. So it was a conscious decision made almost immediately. If they throw that flag, then we're just going to keep going. And I guess now there is, in fact, a flag that tells you that you're going to be scored no longer. So, but that was a conversation that was held there. And in the J.R. Hildebrand, I was in the broadcast booth standing next to Mike King, who was then the anchor of the race. And I'm watching this, and it's funny because I'd had a conversation with Mike before the start of the race. It was just casual conversation. And part of what I was telling him was, remember that in the 500, especially in the last laps, you've got to know the order like 1 through 6, because you never know what's going to happen. And on that day, that did happen. Cars fell out, and here comes J.R. Hildebrand around to win the Indianapolis 500. He's less than 1,000 feet away, and he brushes the wall. And for a second, my brain is thinking, will he be able to slide across and take the win? And if he does slide across, will they count it as a win?
Right.
Which I'm sure they would have. But to his misfortune or his bad luck, here came Dan Weldon just flying, and he crossed and won. But what Mike had done was he got caught up in the crash itself, which is exactly what we had discussed. And finally, he turns and looks at me, because I'm kind of waiting for him, to say something about the win. And he says, "Paul, who won?" So I felt so bad for Hildebrand and for Mike King. That was a terrible thing to have happen to a really fine sports announcer.
I write screenplays amongst other things. And if one were to write an ending where a rookie was leading on the last lap in the last turn and hits the wall and doesn't win, they would immediately not even consider that as just too unrealistic to even put on the screen and everything.
Well, now wait a minute. There is a movie called Turbo.
Oh, yes. That's right. So,
oh no, not Turbo.
You got a plug in for your Eddie Sachs book. I'm getting a plug in for my movie.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Of course, we're going to segue out of this real quick, like,